Supreme Court has rejected former President Donald Trump's emergency request to intervene in a dispute over classified documents seized from his Mar-a-Lago estate. The former president's legal team asked the High Court last week to weigh in on the case. They asked for a special master to vet classified documents seized by the FBI in August. That's the Trump team that asked for that. The court did not provide an explanation, though, for its denial. There were no noted dissents from the 9 justices. For more on this, let's bring in CBS News senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge. So, Catherine, what's the larger implication of this ruling?
Well, this was a very narrow legal ask, John. It was going to mean that sort of a pause would be in place on these classified records. But since the court is not taking up the issue, it means Justice Department investigators can continue with their review of these classified records.
And Donald Trump, former President Trump, has throughout his life often engaged in legal activity to delay processes.
Slow roll. I think
slow roll.
the
Thank you very
term.
much. Thank you. I've served that up nicely for you there. So to slow roll them. Right. And so in this case, just to put a finer point on it, the Justice Department keeps doing its investigation. And so his attempt to slow roll has been denied.
It has, but because this was such a narrow legal ask, and I think this was part of his legal team's strategy, as related issues come up further in the litigation, they can go back to the Supreme Court again. So basically, they didn't play all their cards at once. They just played one card. It was refused, but they can come back to the High Court.
So the slow roll can potentially continue at the High Court.
Keep slow rolling.
Keep slow rolling. Okay. All right. Now to switch gears. You and I were together for the January 6th hearing today. A lot of it concerned the Secret Service. What did you make of that?
I thought that was some of the most important testimony, John, because the Secret Service has this motto that they're worthy of trust. But what we heard from the committee today, and I'm not talking about the Secret Service writ large, but a limited number of individuals may have attempted to obstruct the investigation by the Congressional Committee by not being fully truthful with them about how angry President Trump was because he couldn't go up to the Capitol, and that there are inconsistencies, significant inconsistencies between interviews and the more than 1 million records that were provided. And that, of course, as you know, could be perjury in this case.
And those records, the Secret Service was not immediately forthcoming with them. Those took a little while to get, which isn't what you want to have in a case where you're being charged with obstruction. What did you make of all the warnings that were in testimony today about possible violence on the 6th?
I think we both were sort of taken aback by that. I said earlier that the lesson of 9/11 is that so much intelligence was siloed and there wasn't that ability to connect the dots. But in this case, there was so much sharing of information, it's almost like people disconnected the dots. Yeah. And there was a failure to act because you have to look at all of these warnings, some of which began in December and then leading up to the 24 hours beforehand that people were coming armed or had caches of weapons in Virginia. What was that piece of information that law enforcement and intelligence was looking for that would have sprung them into action? But the complicating factor here, as you know, is that days earlier, there had been a refusal to use the guard by the mayor of Washington, except for crowd control and traffic control. And that would not have been adequate for the violence that day.
Right. All right, Catherine Herridge, more threads to pull here.
Nice to be sitting with you at the desk.
Always good to be with you again.
Good to see you. Thanks.